This is one of 3 movies about choosing a yarn that will work well on your knitting machine. This movie addresses bulky machines. Some things are the same in all of the movies. The reason for these movies is that one of the most frequent questions that I encounter is, my machine is clean. I believe it to be in good working order. I can cast on, but after that, 2 or 3 rows and it jams and it won't go any farther. Of course, there are many possible reasons for such a scenario, but one of the very most common is that the knitter didn't really understand what would be the best yarn to use for her machine. You've been seeing the yarn size ratings in American terms for hand knitters scroll by as I spoke with you. Not all of these yarns are suitable for any one gauge of machine. First, let's define what constitutes a bulky knitting machine. Then we will talk about yarn sizing in more detail, including other ways around the world that it may be described. The majority of bulky knitting machines have their needles spaced 9 millimeters apart, measuring from center to center. The description of the model numbers and brands of the various machines is scrolling past as I talk. Coronas are a little bit peculiar. There were several bulky machines made. They are all 9 millimeters as far as I am aware, but they were produced under a huge variety of names and model numbers. Some of them even are labeled as brothers. Bond and Knit Smart machines are very similar and have 8 millimeter spacing, as does the HK100, not LK100, HK, and the bulky 8 knitting machine. The Passat Vario is a convertible machine that can be configured to have either 5 or 10 millimeter spacing. So all needle spacings from 8 to 10 millimeters are considered to be bulky machines. On all of them, yarn weights from 3 to 5 will knit well, but 4 is my favorite. And when it comes to number 5, it's questionable. Some number 5 yarns knit great, even on every needle. Some number 5 yarns knit okay on every other needle, and some just don't work very well. A lot has to do with texture and smoothness of the yarn and the exact weight, because each yarn weight is in fact a range. To choose a yarn from the low end of the stitch style spectrum for a bulky machine, I suggest you go back and visit the mid-gauge movie, because I covered a lot of available yarns that work well there. This is one of my favorites, and it does knit nicely on the bulky machine. Rewound, of course, as usual. The same yarn is available in a number 4 weight, and it's definitely one of my favorites for the bulky machine. Knits at the middle of the dial for most machines and produces lovely fabric. Mary Maxim Starlet performs very much like everyday worsted. And both of the yarns that I've mentioned so far are acrylic, washable, and moderate in price. If you're looking for wool yarn, Patton's Classic Wool has performed brilliantly for me. It's actually a merino wool. Again, if it's rewound, it goes smoothly through the machine. It is feltable if you want to do that. And unless you have a real wool allergy, it's usually comfortable against the skin. Number 4 weight coned yarns are not all that easy to find, but these 2 cotton ones have both performed well for me on all of my bulky machines, actually. And let's not forget good old Red Heart Super Saver. It performs quite well on bulky knitting machines. And with all of the worsted weight yarns, I usually get in the range of 4 stitches, 6 rows per inch. The full range of possibility on the machine is about 3 to 6 stitches per inch. Now, how will this be described around the world if you're looking for yarn for your bulky machine? In the US and Canada, it is likely to be called number 4 or medium weight, the most recent terms. Many sources still use the term worsted weight, however. And it's important to take note that it may be called medium weight yarn, but it is the most appropriate thing for what we call bulky machines. In the UK, it will probably be called either worsted or Aran, but it may be called triple knit. And in Australia, it will probably be called 10-ply yarn. It may be called that in parts of Europe, but may also be described as requiring a 4 to 5 millimeter knitting needle. I have some fun video series for you to knit on your bulky machine. The Answer Ladies Spa Robe Knit-Along uses really any worsted weight yarn, but I demonstrate using the Premier Home cotton yarn. And a friend who permitted me to use her photos used I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby and produced a beautiful robe too. In the Machine Knit an Adult Sweater pattern, I used my fave, the Premier Everyday Worsted, and I used an assortment of bulky machines to knit the various pieces of the sweater. So it's all knitted on different machines, and therefore you get demos on all different machines. In the Winter Woods Vest Knit-Along, this is an unusual and fun experiment because it uses the thickest yarn the machine will work with, and I do love the vest that resulted. Links to each playlist are in the program notes. Because so many of the yarns available to us for bulky knitting on our knitting machines are really designed for hand knitting, let's talk about rewinding for a minute. The importance is, of course, so that the yarn feeds evenly at the rate that the machine demands it for use. Cone winders do exist, but they are not that easy to come by. So when I was shopping, I selected the Nancy's ball winder, and for me, it's been entirely satisfactory. I have several movies on setting it up, trying it out, using it, and adjusting it on my YouTube channel. And also, even when a pattern suggests a stitch size and specific yarn, and you have that, swatching is important to get the results you're expecting, so these two movies may help you with that. And for best results, wash or clean your swatch as you plan to clean the garment and measure the swatch after the process. If you want to read more about yarn weights, I can recommend the Wikipedia article. I get to it with the method shown here. It is not perfect, but it is one of the most understandable and comprehensive articles on the subject, and it may help you to read it.